Hi, I'm Danielle from Life is a Party, and today I'm back with a really great Cricut project. In fact, this might be one of my favorites. For days, I've been making Cricut earrings. They've turning out so awesome, and there's about 1,000,001 different variations on them with different colors of leather, different vinyl appliques, and different shapes and sizes. So let me show you how to make them. They're the perfect gift. Perfect for yourself. They'd even be really great for a small business. So let's get started. So today I'm going to show you how to design your own Cricut earrings. We're going to use Cricut Design Space, and we're going to do it all with some shapes and some images from Cricut Design Space. It's very easy to do. I'm going to design I think about 3 or 4 different kinds of earrings that you could cut out. So we're going to go to shapes, and let's start with one of the simplest ones that we're going to do, which is going to be a rectangle. So I've chosen the square from shapes, and the first thing we need to do is click on the lock so that we can change the dimensions. And I want to make a long rectangle, so I want it to be 1.5 inches long. Let me just put it up in the corner so I can measure on here more easily. And you can see up here you have the size of your object, and sometimes it's difficult to get things exact by just moving your cursor, so you can go up here and type it in exact. So I want it 1.5 inches long, so it is that now, and I want it to be a little more narrow. I'm going to make it just under a half an inch. It's going to be, yeah, I think that looks good. So that's 0.431. You can, of course, make these any dimensions you want, but I like this one, so I'm going to move it over here. And because we're making earrings, once I'm settled on the design like I am on this really simple one, with it highlighted, I'm going to hit the duplicate button at the top of the layers panel, and it will make an exact duplicate, which is exactly what we want for earrings. We want them matching. So there's our first set of earrings all ready to cut. Now you might have noticed that I didn't put a hole at the top here for the earring findings. I have found that those little small details don't cut out really well with leather. You could probably do it with the faux leather. You can get more detail because it's not as thick, but it's better to use a leather punch for that detail. I have a leather punch, so I'm going to do it that way, and I'll show you in the video how I add it. But if you're wondering why we're not adding it to the design at this stage, that is why. I also want to make some teardrop earrings. So here are free shapes. These ones down here you have to pay to use, but it's not very much. I'm an Access member, so I can use it for free. So I'm going to add one of those to my canvas. And again, I'm just going to pop it in that top left corner just so I can measure more easily. I want it to be about, I think, 2 inches long. This one is just going to be that simple. I want it 2 inches long, and I like the size it automatically is, which is just under 1.5 inches. So again, I'm going to hit duplicate, and there I have my 2 teardrop earrings. Just move those over to the side. It doesn't matter if they're overlapped, because when we go to create it, it will change that. I also want to do 2 inverted teardrops. So I could get the teardrop from here again, or I could have just duplicated one of these. I want it to be the same size again. So I can take it up to the top and use the measurements to get it to 2. I see it's not exact, so I'll just do it there. But this one I actually want to be turned in the other direction. So I'm going to turn it around. And again, it can be a little fiddly to get this exact. So if I go up here, I can just type the 180. And for this earring, I'm going to create 2 holes at the top and pinch it together. But again, I'm going to use the leather punch to do that. And then I'm going to add a gold chain in the middle. But all that I can do afterwards. So that's exactly how I want this one to be. And maybe just so we don't confuse it for now, I will change the color of this one to brown. And I will select it and duplicate it. So I'll just click on both of those and move those 2 off to the side. And the next design I want to show you is a little bit more complicated. So I want to use this arch shape, but I want it to be an open arch. So I want to cut out the middle of it. And also I want it to be the other direction. So let me do a little spin on this guy. It's almost perfect, but I want it to be 180. And I want it to be about, I think, 2 inches long. And then I want to do the cutout. So I'm going to push the zoom button here just so I can get it a little bit more detailed. So to create the cutout part and turn this into an arch, I'm going to start out by duplicating this shape. And let me change the color of this to white. I want this to be smaller to create the cutout. And I'm just sort of eyeballing, I'm going to unlock it. I'm just sort of eyeballing how thick I want the edges to be. And then I want it to have about the same dimensions all the way around. So I'm going to make it a bit taller, maybe a little bit smaller. That looks pretty good to me. I can see it's about a 1/2 inch, so maybe I'll just tidy that up. And move it down a smidge more. I'm just doing this by eye. It does not need to be exact. So that is roughly the look I want. And then I'm just going to select these 2. And I'm going to go to the Align button at the top. And I'm going to choose to align it, to center it horizontally. So now I know my arch is directly in the middle and that these 2 sides are going to be the exact same width. Now with them both still selected, I'm going to use the slice tool down at the bottom of the layers panel if you're working on desktop. So here's my slice result. So I've got my arch, and then I've got my original white piece, which I don't need anymore, the piece that was cut out, which I also don't need anymore. So there's my arch. I want to add something to this. I want to add a semicircle piece on the bottom. Oh, and there's another little slice piece that we missed, so I'll delete it now. So I'm going back into shapes, and I want to add a semicircle on the bottom. So I've clicked on that. I want it to go this way. So just to make sure it's straight again, I'll just go ahead and type 270 in here. And I want this to be the same width as this piece is. which is 1.324. So let's change this. So I've got my finished design here. I think it looks pretty good, but I want to see it not zoomed out. So I'm going to go back to 100% and just putting it back in the top corner again to just the easiest way to measure it. I put this up in the corner to measure it, and I can see that the finished length is going to be almost 3 inches, which I think might be a little bit tall. So I'm going to click on the arch piece. I can unlock the dimension right here, and I'm going to change the height to 1.5 by typing it in. That is just over 2 inches. Looks good, but let me try it a little bit longer. I'm going to try a height of 1.75. So here is our finished design for this one, and they'll be attached. You can either attach it at the bottom, or this one would also look really cool with it attached this way. And we can decide once we make it, because we're not putting those little holes that we'll need to attach it anyway. So we're going to duplicate this one, and then we'll also duplicate the arch. So here are our 4 different kinds of earrings. Some of them I would like to decorate with some vinyl, iron-on vinyl, which is something you can do. You can add details to your earrings with iron-on vinyl. So I want to use some mandala designs. So I'm going to type that into the search. And a whole bunch of different results will come up. There are tons of them to choose from. I want to tell you though that ones like this one are so fine in their detail that it's going to be difficult to work with. The larger ones, more like this, are going to be a lot easier to do the vinyl piece on. I really like this one. I'm going to choose to use it, but it is definitely on the borderline for what is going to work easily. So we'll add that one to canvas. And then I want to do one other one as well. And I have saved it. So I'm going to click on saved and it will come up. But you could scroll through and find this one if you want to use it. And actually, this is the name and the number, which I'll put in the blog post for this one. And here is this one if you're looking for these exact ones. So this one now I'm going to add to canvas. And they come in quite large, so we're going to need to resize them. This one comes in a group, so the first thing I'm going to do is ungroup it. So it's actually this large one that I want to use from my design, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one and this one too. Although it would work quite well because the details aren't quite as fine. And I don't want to add these to all of them, so just to sort of declutter our canvas here, I'm going to hide some of these projects. They're not disappearing entirely. They're still in our layers panel, and all we need to do is hit the hide button again and they'll reappear. But this will just kind of get them out of our way while we work on the vinyl part of our design. So this design I want to add to the black leather teardrops. And I'm going to even hide the extra one of these. We only need to get this sorted out for one, and then we can just duplicate it. So I like the idea of it being a little bit off center. This is my favorite part of this design, so I'm going to rotate it so that will sort of be in the middle. And you can just play around with this, but my only word of caution is, the smaller you make this design, the harder it is to work with because the pieces are so small. But it does look pretty great. So I like it kind of like that, sort of coming off the edge. Make it a little bigger. Once you're happy with how the design looks and your placement of it, then we're going to duplicate this bottom piece and just put it off to the side. Then I'm going to select both of these with my mouse, and with just these two selected, I'm going to click on Slice. When my slice result appears, I can get rid of this piece entirely. This is the piece that I want to keep. This is what I want to cut out on my vinyl, so I'm going to keep that guy. This piece, these would be really too fine to cut out of leather. This is just the slice result, which I don't need, so I'm going to delete it. I'm going to delete this one as well. So this piece is the piece that I can cut out of my vinyl, and then once it's cut out, I can put it back on the solid piece, which is why we duplicated this one. So like the others, I'm going to duplicate it because I have 2 earrings to make. And then I'm going to repeat the whole process for this other pair of earrings and the slightly different mandala design. I am going to size it, select them both, slice it, and then I'll have my vinyl applique for this one as well. So this is the one that we'll use on our inverted teardrop earring. So I will duplicate it. Also need to duplicate the earring itself because we got rid of that other one with our slice result. There's one more earring design I want to show you, so I'm going to go ahead and hide these ones just to clear up our canvas. We're going to go to shapes and we're going to choose this arch shape again. This one is just going to be a simple arch. I want it to have the arch at the top, so I'm rotating it, but again, just type it to get the exact 180 turn. And I'm going to measure it again on the side here by just bringing it over. I want it to be about 2 inches long and 1.5 inches, a little less than 1.5 inches wide. So once I'm happy with the dimensions for that one, I'm going to duplicate it as well. And now I'm going to go back and unhide everything. I want to use the same image I used already of the mandala on this one. And I have it saved, so I'm going to click on saved exactly the way I did it last time. Add it to canvas. We've got our slice results, so we can delete this piece. This is the piece we want to use, and we actually need to duplicate it. And this piece we can get rid of. We'll also duplicate this as our base for the other earring side. So now we have everything all designed. So once you're ready to cut out your earrings, you're going to want to choose your material. So go to the Browse All Materials. And I'm using leather and faux leather to cut out mine. So I've just searched for leather and all these different options come up. Now, if you are using faux leather to make these, then you're going to be able to cut them. You can see here the tool that's required is the normal fine point blade. So that is easy. But if you're cutting other leathers, you may need a different blade in your machine. So for the genuine leather, and I'm using a maker, it's recommending the deep point blade, and I've actually been using a different leather setting for mine. I've been using the tooling leather section. There's different thicknesses, and the thing about real leather is it's not uniformed in its thickness, so it's a little bit of, well, you can certainly take a ruler and measure the thickness, but it's also a bit of hit and miss and guesswork. The one I'm doing right now, I'm going to pick the deepest one, the 2.4 millimeter, but the 1.6 has worked for me as well. And you can, of course, check when it's done, and if it's not done, if it's not cut all the way through, then do it again. So I'm going to pick this one, and you can see that for this material, it's asking for the knife blade, and again, that's what I've been using to cut my leather. So we're using some real leather for this project, and it's quite thick, so you want to use a strong bond mat. You can see that this is an old mat. This residue is from cutting some other leather, and there's cut marks on it, but it should be okay because we're going to reinforce the stick with just some blue painter's tape, and all you want to do is tape around the outside for that. A word of caution though, certain kinds of leather will be marked by the tape. So if you're using those, you'll want to flip your leather over. I like cutting from the front when you can because it just seems to give a cleaner cut to that front edge. But with the kind of leather that marks, it's probably better to flip it. So I just want to show you, this is the knife blade, and you just load it into clamp B, and then you're ready to load your mat with the load button, and then start the cut. I just finished my first cut on the Cricut with the leather, and it can be tricky to know how many passes it's going to need because leather, real leather, varies in thickness. So I don't think this is cut through yet. I can't get it to lift at all with my finger. So before unloading it, instead of unloading it, we're gonna push the cut button and it will cut it again, and then we'll check it again. And if we need to, we can do that as many times as needed until it's cut through. So when the leather is first cut with the Cricut, sometimes there'll be these sort of wispy edges, which we don't want. So take some very sharp scissors. These are the Cricut fabric scissors, and they work so great. And just trim them from the front and the back. This is the faux leather, and it just cuts on a regular standard mat with the fine point blade. So it's time to put some of these earrings together, and we're going to use this leather punch to make some really nice clean holes. So I made a little paper template just so I could fold it and get the center for these holes, because I want the earrings to be all balanced. And then you can eyeball it as well. So I'm just gonna line up my template and flip that over and punch the hole. And it makes such a nice clean hole. So this one is going to be attached to the top. We're going to put the earring part at the top, and then I'm going to use jump rings to attach this section, and I'm actually going to do like one on each arch into this one. So again, I've made this template just so I can help get the holes exactly center. But you could eyeball it. So that's looking good. And then I did the same with the half circle again, just to line it up perfectly. Or as perfectly as I can. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to attach these ones. So I have this larger jump ring. Just open it slightly, put the pieces together, and then just use the pliers to close it up again. And there's our first one. So we'll do the same over on this side. So that part's looking good. And then we need our top one. So I could probably use a medium ring. The top. And then we'll need a little one inside of that. So close up this one. And then we'll open the teeny weeny one. And the reason we're using this one in between is because we want it to hang straight. Another option is to turn this piece. But for this one, because we want it to be like really dangly and large anyway, we'll just use a little jump ring. So just open that one up. Get that facing the right direction. Close it. And there's our finished earring. So this earring is using the exact same shapes, but this just a different configuration. So I'm going to use these pieces to help me line it up. And this one, it's even more important that they're lined up because it has to like balance when it hangs. So that's just something to think about because it only has the one piece. It could hang sort of off if it's not lined up well. So there we have our holes, and now I can put the attachment pieces. So for the middle one, I used a medium jump ring. Just checking back with this one, so I used a medium at the top, and then for the earring finding, rather than using an extra jump ring to attach it, I just turned this sideways, just with the little needle nose pliers. So just bent it. So now it's going that way, and that way once it has a jump ring through it, the earring will lay the right way. And that is definitely something to think about, because you don't want them to turn, you know, when you're wearing them. So that's that one. These earrings with the rectangle and the chain are one of the simplest ones, but I really like it. So to make it, I picked up some chain at the craft store, and it comes in this long piece, and then you just use little cutters to cut the length however long you want it. So I've already cut the chain to make sure it matches this one, and I'm going to put it together. And this is one of the ones where I guess I wanted it to be quite simple. I turned the base of the earring, and then we need a jump ring through the top link of the chain, through the earring, the leather piece, and now through the part that goes in your ear. I've got those three all sandwiched in there together, and then just close up the ring. So really simple, but really pretty. And obviously you could make these in any colors. You could make them longer if you want sort of more of an evening look. I really like these ones. So for this earring, I did a iron-on foil on top. So I cut out the iron-on foil, and you want to do the backing paper down on your mat, and then once you take it off, you need to weed it. I really love how the foil looks, but you do have to be careful to choose a design that is large enough to weed, and it's tricky, a little bit time consuming for these little tiny pieces. So you definitely want to bear that in mind when you're choosing a design to use. These little tiny dots are especially challenging. You can use your weeder tool to hold them and then pull back the vinyl. But it's definitely very fiddly work. It's sort of the trade-off of having fine detail. So once you get your vinyl all weeded, painstaking as it is, it's time to apply it to the leather. And you can see this is one I did earlier, and I'm using the Cricut mini press. It's set on the lowest setting, preheated, and through trial and error, I found that the low setting was the best, and just trying to line this up to match as best as I can. And it only took 10 seconds. So I'm just applying pressure and counting out for 10 seconds. This requires a cool peel, so that means I need to just let it cool down first before I peel off this backing paper. So once this is cooled down a bit, we'll just carefully peel it off. And if it wasn't stuck enough, you could press it again for a few seconds, but you do want to be careful to not over press as well, because that can make it not stick, and it can also make the glue come out, and you'll have like ghosting or a shadow of the glue, which you don't want. So I do suggest practicing on like a scrap piece first, because you don't want to get to this stage of the earring making and then ruin it with your vinyl press. And then we're just going to use a medium jump ring and a little baby tiny one too. So that goes through the hole. Oh, this is so fiddly. And then little baby jump ring. And then you can close this medium size one. And then I'll open a little tiny one and add the earring. Just make sure that's hanging the right way. And shut this one. How cute are those? So this earring is the teardrop in reverse, and then it's got the little pitch to it. So we made these two holes. They're just under 1 centimeter apart at the top. And now we're going to assemble it. So I have cut a piece of chain and opened a medium jump ring. I'm going to feed it through, catch the top link of the chain as well, and then it goes through the next hole. And then we need to also put the earring in, and then we can close up the jump ring. And there's our finished earring. So this earring is made out of the faux leather, and it's quite a bit thinner, doesn't have the same weight to it, but if you're looking for a lightweight earring, then it might be a good choice for you. And it's a little bit easier to work with because it's so much thinner as well. So we've got our vinyl cut out, and I'm just gonna line it up. And we're gonna press this for about 10 seconds on the lowest setting. It's supposed to have a cool peel as well, so we'll just let that cool down. I mean, it's not that hot, you can see I'm touching it, but it's meant to be cool. And I want to put a hole in the top. I'm just sort of gonna eyeball that to get the center. Actually, maybe I'll compare it to this one as well. There's our center hole, and I think this is ready to peel now. So once it's cool, just that one looks really great. So we can add the findings, and I'll just do what I did before. So I'll add a medium sized jump ring. And then it had a small one as well. We'll open the small one and add the earring part. And there's our finished faux leather earring. I don't mind the back of it. Some people like to put vinyl on the back as well, but I think it looks okay how it is. And those are super lightweight. So yeah, great choice if you're looking for a lightweight one. Here's all the finished earrings. I love how they turned out. They're perfect for wearing, gift giving, or even for selling. I hope you really enjoyed that project today, and just want to remind you that you can check on all the details over at lifeisaparty.ca. I hope you have fun making earrings. I don't know if I can stop. I'm having so much fun making them. Everyone I know is probably going to get a pair. Happy crafting.